Put your faith in the light.
Hello guys, welcome to another one of my videos. This is Lightblade. Well guys, in this one I will be talking about gear, but not any gear. Trinkets. Yes, trinkets are by far the most interesting pieces of gear that we can get because, well, let's face it, all other pieces are just basically stat stick with a bit of strength, secondary stats and all that stuff. There are some exceptions, like for example weapons, like in Shadowlands we saw the Gable of the First Arbiter, Jadis the Prison Blade and stuff like that, but for the most part trinkets are the most interesting pieces of gear you can get. You know, they give you special effects, stats and other stuff, like interesting stuff. I did something similar like this for the season 4 of Shadowlands, where I guessed correctly that the Enforcer's stun grenade from the Warlords of Draenor Dungeon Iron Dogs was going to be our best in slot, and no one believed me at the time.
They called me a madman.
So I'll be giving scores from 1 to 10 to all trinkets that are available in Dragonflight, and well, let's see how many things I get wrong and how many things I get right. Let's start with the video. Okay guys, we're gonna start with raid trinkets because, well, raid trinkets are sometimes the most powerful trinkets in the game. They also tend to be like very interesting, have different effects, but sometimes they are also very gimmicky and have pretty useless effects that you can't really apply in real scenarios. So we're gonna start there. So our first trinket is the Old Totem of the Master. So enter an elemental stance, successfully dodging or parrying an attack has a chance to unleash a powerful counterattack. Basically this is a 0 out of 10 out the get-go. This is basically just a tank trinket and it has no use for Retribution Paladins, doesn't give you any damage. You're never gonna dodge or parry an attack. Next trinket, a Decoration of the Flame. So basically a strength trinket that does, when you use it, it's a 2-minute cooldown. You stomp the ground, you make flames radiate outwards from your position, dealing damage and also granting you a shield for 30 seconds. So basically just a tank trinket, guys. Doesn't really have any uses for DPS unless maybe you're doing like a really high key and you really need the survivability of the shield, but even then I don't think it's really worth to sacrifice damage just to get some extra AoE fire and a small shield, you know. So this thing is going to get 2 out of 10 for me just because it does some damage. Next one, Manic Grief Torch. So this is a strength trinket that you channel for 2 seconds, unleashing a furious volley of flame around you, doing a lot of fire damage. So it doesn't say how much fire damage it does, it just says a lot. And whenever an allied player dies, this cooldown is reduced by 90 seconds. It's a 2-minute cooldown trinket. So basically we're feeding on the deaths of our allies. It goes in theme with Retribution Paladins. Yes, it goes with our Retribution aura. When people die, we're happy because we get wings, but nah, this trinket is just pretty trash, I think, unless the damage it does is like huge because it's a channel. Not many melee characters like to channel like in place for, even if it's for 2 seconds, unless I guess you're a demon hunter, you know. But I don't think this thing being good. I'm gonna give it 2 out of 10. And maybe if the fire damage is huge, you know, maybe it's good. Maybe on progression fight, if people like die a lot and you can just press it on cooldown, you know, it might be good. But if not, 2 out of 10, not very useful, pretty gimmicky. Next one, Rumbling Ruby. So this thing is a strength trinket. When you attack, you slowly build concussive force, granting 20 attack power per stack. Basically when you see attack power in trinkets, well, you don't see that anymore. We saw it in the sharpening stones in Shadowlands, but it's a stat that you normally don't see on your character sheet. Treat it as strength. Basically attack power is similar to strength because it will increase the damage of your abilities, like your basic abilities for paladins, you know. Okay, so at X stacks, so it doesn't say the stacks, your next 3 melee attacks emit a shockwave in front of you, dealing 20k bonus nature damage to all enemies in a line. Shockwave deals more damage to enemies at high health. So this trinket sounds pretty decent. I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10.
Hey,
I like
that's
the part
pretty
of
good.
granting attack power because that's scaling our abilities. You know, it's not only just giving us a damage proc of whatever nature or magic damage it does, and it gives us a nice proc of magic damage after also giving us some damage on our abilities. So 7 out of 10, pretty decent trinket. Okay, let's see the other options. Spiteful Storm. So this thing is equip. It's not on use. Whenever you cast or attack, it builds stacks of spite. At 5 stacks, a Stormbolt arcs towards your target, dealing low nature damage over 3 seconds. So it seems like this is just a single target trinket. Upon expiration, the bolt returns, increases the amount of spite you need to for the storm bolt, and increases the damage of the bolt as well. So basically this is just a permanent damage increasing trinket. If you played in BFA, you remember Infinite Stars. It's basically a similar idea. You just, while the fight is longer, this thing will stack more damage over the course of it. So it acts like that. It's really going to depend on how the length of the fights are going to be. Since it's only a single target thing, if there's ads, basically this thing is kind of worthless because it can go on an ad, and then the stacks are kind of meh, you know. So I'm thinking this is just going to be a 5 out of 10. Maybe if it stacks fast enough, and if there's a lot of like single targety fights in the new raid. Okay, let's go to the next one. Storm Eater's Boom. So used on unused 3-minute cooldown. Okay, basically that just kills it there. 3-minute cooldowns are worthless for Retribution Paladins. There's very rare occasions where we use stuff that's not useful with our wings combined. But just for the hell of it, let's read it. Accept the storm, becoming a primal air elemental and immobilizing yourself for X seconds. So it doesn't say how long it lasts. While in this form, the winds around you deal low damage per second to your enemies within Y yards, so it doesn't say the range, intensifying by 10% each second until the transformation subsides. So I'm gonna give this thing just a 3 out of 10. So immobilizing yourself in the middle of a raid fight sounds like a nightmare scenario because there's a lot of stuff happening most of the time. Of course, you can like find some places where you could actually do this and get some value, but it's a 3-minute cooldown, guys. That basically just kills this thing, and we're never gonna use it. I'm just giving it 3 out of 10 because maybe if it's super overpowered at the damage that it does, we might use it, but I very doubtly. Okay, next one. Whispering Incarnate Icon. It gives strength, and when you equip it, you succumb to the icon's whisper, becoming infused with frost, increasing your critical strike damage by 500. So it's basically just a stat stick. Fighting alongside your allies who are infused with earth and fire causes you to get half of their infusion stats. So in the Wowhead comments, I saw that the idea, I think, is that this trinket drops with a different infusion depending on how you kill the boss. So it comes from this boss. Like you see, there's a frost guy, earth, and a fire guy, and depending on how you kill these guys, the trinket will drop with a different infusion. So you will get stats depending on how many other people get this trinket. So at start, this trinket is not going to be very good because not many people are going to have the infusion. You're just going to have your baseline stats of the trinket, you know. But as more people get this, you are going to be getting more of those procs that of half of the other people's stats, and it's going to be really powerful. I'm gonna give this thing an 8
that's
out
pretty
of 10,
good.
just because it's going to be really weak at the start, but it's going to eventually be really powerful. You know, it's also a really decent stat stick. We don't have to do anything to get the power of it. Just we'll keep looting the thing and giving it to our friends in our raid and our group and a Mythic Plus. Anyways, guys, that's all for raid trinkets. Now let's go to the next part, which are Mythic Plus trinkets. Okay, guys, so we have the list of Mythic Plus dungeons that are going to be in Season 1 of Dragonflight, and it's Allegator Academy, Ruby Life Pools, the Azure Bolt, and Knockhood Offensive. So let's see the trinkets of those places. Let's start with Allegator Academy. So the first trinket is this one. Alex Puzzle Box. So solve the puzzle, increasing your mastery by 3000 for 20 seconds. Oh, but that kills it. It's a 3-minute cooldown. So basically this is garbage for Retribution Paladins. I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10 just because we can actually use the mastery. It's pretty good stat for us, but the 3-minute cooldown kind of makes it awkward to use with our cooldown. So probably a boomy trinket, or for classes that have like 3-minute cooldowns to pair it with. But for Retribution Paladins, 5 out of 10. Next one, Dragon Games Equipment. It gives strength. When you equip it, you can use it, and you empty the Dragon Games kickballs onto the field. Running into them kicks it to your enemy target, dealing physical damage. 2-minute cooldown. It's pretty garbage. I'm gonna give it 3 out of 10. Not very useful. Like I said before, we like stats. This doesn't give stats. It also does physical damage, which is further reduced by armor. So pretty useless trinket. Let's go to the next dungeon. Let's go to Ruby Life. So first trinket, Blaze Binder's Hoof gives strength. Bind with the blaze for 20 seconds, giving your attacks high chance to increase your strength by 40, stacking up to 6 times, so 240 strength when you have this fully stacked. When your binding is complete, emit a burnout wave, dealing up to 40k fire damage split between enemies. 2-minute trinket. Okay, this is interesting. It's pretty decent. It's a strength trinket that gives more strength, and it gives a final blast of the AoE damage. The damage is split, so it's not uncapped AoE, which makes it a bit bad, but it's a pretty decent. I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10.
That's pretty good.
Stats, like I said before. This thing gives us stats, even though it's a bit late. The duration is it's 20 seconds, so it's going to be there for the most part of our crusade. And since our crusade is normally like also building up, you know, you don't have the full damage of it from the start. The strength also builds up in power, so that's what I'm giving it, is 7 out of 10. Pretty decent trinket. Next one, Ruby Whelp Shell. So equipped, your spells and abilities have a chance to call a Ruby Whelpling, which will try to do helpful stuff in combat. And it has a 1-day cooldown where you call a Ruby Whelpling and instruct them in combat, teaching them how to be helpful. So I checked in Wowhead, and this thing had different effects depending on what you taught the Whelpling the day. So it can actually give you haste, a bunch of haste on a proc. It can do some damage, and it can just be like the Whelpling attack. So this is a pretty random trinket, I would say. If it was more consistent and only gave like one thing, maybe a proc of stats, it would be really good. But as it is, I'm not going to put it very high here. I'm gonna say it's a 4 out of 10. Can have uses, but since it's so unreliable, I prefer to just give it that score. Let's go to the next dungeon. Okay, so we're gonna do Azure Bolt next. So there's only one trinket here, and it's this Begurging Seed. So dealing or taking damage has a low chance to grant you a stack of Brimming Life Pool up to 5. Consume those and you gain burst, which is really nice. We like burst, we like mastery, we like stats. We're Retribution Paladins, we're the Garens of WoW, I guess. And 16k maximum health per stack consume. Okay, so this is a kind of a tank trinket. It's not much of a DPS one because it gives you a bunch of health, which, like I said, might be useful if you're doing like high keys to maybe survive stuff. Red Paladins aren't the most tanky melee classes, so it can have some uses in the future, but if we're talking DPS wise, this is just going to be a 4 out of 10, guys. Not very good trinket. Now let's go to the last dungeon from the Dragonflight that we're going to see in phase 1, which is the Knockhood Offensive. There's also just one trinket here, and it's the Idling of Trampling Hooves. So your attacks have a chance to call a center to aid you in increasing your allies' speed by 4,000, which is pretty good. Like, speed is nice. It's also speed in combat is pretty valuable for us because we're kind of slow. And then the center charges forward, trampling enemies, dealing physical damage split between them. Okay, so this is just a 5 out of 10, guys. I don't like effects that are procs of damage. Also, it's physical damage. It's split damage, so it's not uncapped. Like I said, physical damage is reduced by armor even further. So yeah, 5 out of 10. It's not very good, but you can use it if you get it, I guess. Okay, now let's go to the trinkets of the dungeons of past eras that are going to be in season 1 of Dragonflight. Okay, let's check out the Pandaria dungeon that's going to be here first, and it's the Temple of the Jade Serpent. So there's no trinkets. Yeah, that's pretty much it. There's 0 trinkets in this place, so it's worthless for trinkets. 0 out of 10. Okay, I'm joking. Okay, guys, let's go to the next dungeon. That's the one from Warlords of Draenor, and this is Shadowmoon Burial Grounds. So here we have a really powerful unused trinket, and it's the Bone Maw's Big Toe. This thing has strength as its main stat, and it has a bunch of critical strike unused every 2 minutes. It goes really well with wings, and well, that's all that I have to say about it. It's really powerful. I'm gonna give it 9 out of 10. It's not a 10 out of 10 yet, but it's really close. So if you get this, you're still really happy to have it. Now let's go to the last dungeons, which are the Legion dungeons. Okay, guys, let's talk about Legion trinkets. So first, let's start with Court of Stars. So there's one trinket here, and it's the Windscar Wheatstone. So this thing is not as strong as it looks because, well, the damage was nerfed in Shadowlands when this thing was in the Time Walking Legion Mythic Plus stuff. The damage was uncapped, but Blizzard went in and just nerfed it and made it reduced after 5 targets, even if you can't see it here. So it's a 2-minute cooldown that gives you mastery and an on-use of physical damage. Like we said before, we don't really like trinkets that don't give us like damage to our abilities, so I'm gonna give this thing a 6 out of 10 because it's still better physical damage than other on-use trinkets that we have seen here. And it gives us mastery, which is nice. Not having strength is kind of a negative, but the proc is pretty strong even if it's reduced after 5 targets. And the thing is, this thing is reduced after 5 targets. It's not split damage, which is the good thing and why I'm putting it a bit higher than the other trinkets that dealt like physical damage or any damage on a cooldown. Now let's go to the next dungeon, which is Halls of Valor. And I left on purpose the best for the last because these 2 trinkets are basically extremely powerful. The first one is Hunger of the Pack. It's just a basic static. It gives you strength and it gives you critical strike, which is pretty decent. I'm gonna give this one a 9 out of 10. It's not getting a 10 out of 10 because critical strike, like I said before guys, is not our best stat. It's normally like the third option. You want first haste, then you want mastery, then you want either crit or burst, you know. But this trinket is pretty damn good because whenever you kill something, you get speed and it helps you like keep up with the pack, and it works in Mythic Plus environments. When you kill stuff, you keep on moving, you know, so the speed on top of just being a decent static just makes it a pretty good trinket. And now the best trinket and our best in slot on use trinket is going to be Horn of Valor. Yeah, this thing is just nuts. It gives you versatility as the stat on the trinket, but on a 2-minute cooldown, it gives you a bunch of strength for 30 seconds. You heard me right, 30 seconds. This thing is crazy. This is basically our best trinket for the whole first phase 1. Well, season 1 of Dragonflight. You're 100% wanting to get this as fast as you can. And the good thing is our 2 good trinkets drop from the same dungeon, so you're not going to be sad for running like Halls of Valor because it is a really long dungeon. It's like one of those 40 to 42 minute dungeons. Like the old Legion stuff was really long, so this one is one of those. So at least if you're doing this place, you know you're going to get something really good if you get a bit lucky. You know, Horn of Valor or Hunger of the Pack are both extremely powerful trinkets. Horn of Valor, like I said, is a 10 out of 10, and Hunger of the Pack is a 9 out of 10. Okay guys, now let's go to our honorable mentions, which are PvP Trinkets. Okay guys, here we are at the PvP part. So I'm just putting PvP stuff as honorable mentions because, well, not everyone does PvP content, you know. Also, you have to be kind of good at PvP to actually get these trinkets at a decent PvE item level. So let's start with the first one. This is the badge. Good old badge was used a ton in Shadowlands, and it can be a good replacement of the Horde of Valor if you're unlucky or can't get it. Since it's a 1-minute cooldown, it goes with your 1-minute burst window, and you can also pair it up with your 2-minute window. It's pretty flexible. The bad thing is the Gladiators version does actually give you critical strike instead of haste, which is a bit sad because we would really like to have like that big chunk of haste, especially at the start of Dragonflight where we are going to feel a bit sluggish because we're lacking that extra haste. But even with critical strike as its main, it's going to be a pretty decent one. I'm gonna give it
that's pretty good.
Next trinket is the good old insignia. Yes, the good insignia also is a pretty decent trinket. It has an uptime of 30% on the strength part. It lasts also 20 seconds, which is a pretty long duration for just a proc trinket. The good part is the Gladiators version still has the haste. So as I said before with the badge, having haste is really good, especially at the start of expansions where our haste kind of dips down and we feel kind of sluggish. This trinket is just a very good stat stick. I'm gonna give it also an 8 out of 10.
That's pretty good.
Well guys, those are all the trinkets that I'll be talking for now. Let me know down in the comments if you're if I missed some trinkets, maybe something from crafting, you know, but let's leave it specifically to trinkets. I know there's a lot of crafted stuff from other professions like blacksmith, leatherworking, but let's just leave it at trinkets for now. Let me know down if I missed something from there. And well guys, if you enjoy my content, leave a like to the video and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching everyone.